So for about a year now, I've had the Avidity Arms PD10 and 30 Super Carry here in my everyday carry rotation. And the ammunition that I've been carrying in this thing has been the Federal HST. Why? Well, because the Federal HST, I've got experience with it in the past in other cartridges, in other calibers, and it seems to be an across the board performer. But I got to thinking, what if there's something better out there, right? And so what I did today is I did a little bit of testing. I took this Federal HST 100 grain, put it up against some Federal Punch in 103 grain, and then also some Speer Gold Dot in 115 grain. And I want to talk a little bit about the results and let you know at the end of all of that whether or not the Federal HST is what I'm going to continue to use in the little Avidity Arms PD10 here. Now, basically, I compared three things today. Got them on the chrono, got some chrono data. I then shot for some accuracy, and then I turned around and then did some ballistic testing to check expansion and weight retention on these as well. Now, obviously, with the chrono testing, we were using the Velociradar from Caldwell today, and we started out with the Federal HST 100 grain, and not really surprised at the velocities of these HST, them being the lighter grain weight projectile, that 100 grain projectile. They were the fastest moving ammunition that we checked out, the fastest of these three anyway. Then we jumped up and checked out the ammunition from the Punch, and it being 103 grain, being a little heavier, was also a little bit slower. And, you know, when you add weight in a projectile, that's kind of understandable. It's accepted. It happens, right? What was interesting, though, when we then jumped over to the Speer Gold Dot, which is even heavier than that Federal Punch, the Speer Gold Dot was on par as far as velocities go with that Federal Punch. So that means the Federal Punch maybe is loaded hotter than any of these three, at least I guess percentage wise. But as far as getting the most bang for the buck in velocity, hands down, it was that Federal HST. The next test I moved to was the accuracy test, shooting for a group at 25 yards. Now, we did that obviously with the Avidity Arms PD10 using the Gideon Judge red dot, or in this case, the green dot. And I also used the multi-cal steady rest from Ransom on top of our little tabletop tripod. The idea here was to kind of have a mixture of the practical accuracy at the same time as having the repeatability offered by that multi-cal steady rest. So while we were using the rest, I did fire fairly fast because we're talking about defensive ammunition, and we're not going to be slow firing this in the event that, God forbid, of course, right, that we have to use it. So started out again with the Federal HST here, what I've been carrying for the last year or so, and pretty happy with the group that this put up at 25 yards. Really can't complain about it. And I've seen that type of group from this in the past. Again, been shooting this, been carrying this for about a year now. Moved up to the Federal Punch, or over, I should say, to the Federal Punch with the accuracy testing. Same control, same method, course of fire, whatever you want to call it. And this was surprisingly accurate as well. I mean, can't complain too terribly much about the Federal Punch. Maybe opened up, I mean, just a little bit, but overall, not too terrible. What was surprising was, again, moved up to that Speer Gold Dot in 115 grain. and got a very similar group with the Speer Gold Dot here that we did with that Federal HST. So what I'm thinking is, so far we've got, or at least in my opinion, I've got a check mark that kind of confirms my bias, so to speak, with the Federal HST in the velocity, and now with the accuracy testing as well. Not that the other two, have done poorly in either one of those categories, but I want to talk about this final one, which was um, taking these and being able to test out the ballistics more or less, right? Expansion as well as weight retention. And to do that, I broke out an old friend that you guys haven't seen on the channel here in a while, the Redneck Ballistic Apparatus. And if you're not familiar and haven't seen this on videos in the past, basically it's a sawhorse that has a little box built on it that houses milk jugs. And typically for handguns, I'll use 3 milk jugs. And now I've got a jug filled with dirt kind of as a backstop, right? So again, we started out with the Federal HST once again. And after firing that round, after getting soaking wet and being able to recover that round, the round had went through all three, or had went through 2 of the water jugs, entered the 3rd water jug, and of course it remained in there. I had to dump it out of that 3rd water jug. Moved over to the Federal punch ammunition, and essentially got the same exact thing. Got wet, of course, because I was shooting it about 5 yards, I think, when I did that. But went through the 1st jug, the 2nd jug, went into the 3rd jug, and the 3rd jug, of course, I had to dump it out to get the round out. As far as the Speer Gold Dot, it probably packed the best punch, but not by a whole lot. The Speer Gold Dot went through all 3 jugs, but it didn't actually pierce the jug with the sand in it. It hit it pretty good, but then it kind of just bounced off and it was laying there in the box. So I was able to recover all 3 projectiles and then do some weighing and some measuring. So let's talk about the results on that side of things. I know there's some folks out there that might not be familiar with 30 Super Carry or know what it is. So let's talk about that. In relation to a 9mm, a 30 Super Carry is a little bit longer on the brass side of things. But then as far as the overall length of the cartridge itself, it's on par, pretty much exactly the same as a 9mm. And that's why a 30 Super Carry can quite often feed through, at least it can through the Avidity PD10, feed through the 9mm magazines. And then the obvious difference being that the 30 Super Carry is a smaller diameter, right, than 9mm. 30 Super Carry coming in somewhere around 310 thousandths, 0.312 typically, which is interesting because they call it 30 Super Carry, and yet it's 312, which you would think would be 31 caliber, but the twist, I should say, to that is that 32 H&R Magnum, as well as 32 ACP and several other 32 caliber cartridges use that same 312 projectile. So 30 Super Carry, at least in my opinion, I'm going to call it a 32 caliber. Anyway, back to the measuring and everything. So with the Federal HST 100 grain here, super impressive. So weight retention on this started out at 100 grain. We ended up with 98 grain after it was fired, which is pretty doggone impressive. And then measuring the expansion on the Federal HST 100 grain, a super impressive expansion. 312 our starting point, and we were like 660, I want to say, when I measured. We were well above 600,000. So we doubled, in effect, the diameter with the expansion. Very, very impressive. Moving over, and when we tested out the punch, the federal punch here, 103 grain federal punch. Not nearly as pretty of a flower and a traditional opened up hollow point as the HST. However, not bad on the weight retention side of things either. It was, I want to say again, right in that 98 or so grain. So lost about 5 grains. Not too much to speak about. And then when we measured the expansion, it didn't quite open up like the HST, but we were still well over half inch. We almost doubled. We are about 550 thousandths, something along those lines with expansion on the federal punch. And then finally with the Speer Gold Dot, 115 grain here. We got a fairly pretty flower. It's very similar to that HST. As far as retention still good. I mean, we ended up with like 114-ish grain retention. We lost like 1 grain. Not bad at all. And then when we measured, this is where it was interesting. The Spear Gold Dot come in with the expansion measurement in that 550,000, a little over half inch mark, but yet well under the HST. So it should go without saying that I have been putting some trust into the Avidity Arms PD10 here. I've enjoyed it. It's a little bit thin in the grip for my liking, but I've learned to kind of deal with that just simply because I like the platform that it offers, especially for 30 Super Carry. And 30 Super Carry has been one of those cartridges that has intrigued me since it came out. Now, I think that the Avidity Arms PD10 is the best platform out there in a handgun anyway for the 30 Super Carry. When we talk about these three ammunitions and the boxes that they check, um, probably no surprise, if you've been keeping score through this video. The HST, I will continue to carry the Federal HST in 100 grain as far as the 30 Super Carry. There's no doubt. Number two, backup, for me would be the Spear Gold Dot. The Spear Gold Dot for the grain weight of the projectile you're getting, having the velocity that it does in that weight, with the accuracy we got, and with the weight retention, it's just behind, I think, that Federal HST, and then not far behind those two again. In a defensive situation, it would certainly get the job done. Is the Federal Punch in the 103 grain. And this was, I think it just performed low out of all three tests, and compared to the other two ammunition. But again, did it absolutely fail? Was it abysmal? No, it wasn't. So I point that out to say, depending on the firearm that you're using this ammunition in, it's going to make all the difference. Today, I tested it in the firearm that I'm planning on, or wanted to, I should say, carry it in.